She'll never be able to forget her torrid and terrifying affair with cold-blooded killer Chris Watts. Amanda McMahon met Watts on the dating site Tinder last March, 5 months before he strangled his pregnant wife and smothered his 2 little daughters.
He seemed like a genuine guy, you know, I mean, he was funny, he was charming.
Watts claimed he was divorced. They started out texting each other. She texted, "Morning, bud." Watts replied, "What's new, pretty lady? When can we eat tacos together? That sounds like a plan. This could get out of hand. I like it." After they exchanged a few flirty text messages, Amanda agreed to meet Chris Watts in person for the first time here in this shopping center. They parked somewhere over here, and then Chris bought Amanda a coffee from this Starbucks before they decided to head to her place to watch a movie. That movie was the psychological thriller Shutter Island. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a husband who murders his wife because she killed their children.
Where are the kids?
Did the movie inspire Watts to falsely claim that he killed his wife Shanann in a rage because she strangled the little girls?
She hurt my kids. Like I did the same thing to her.
Kind of eerie.
Yeah, almost like a premonition.
Right. That night, Amanda says they had their first sexual encounter.
He was very rough, I would say. Very rough. And, you know, the best way I can describe it is he's almost zoned out into a different person.
Did he ever choke you or ask to choke you?
He did place his hand around my neck. And I quickly it freaked me out.
It sounded like he was very forceful.
Very forceful.
Is that terrifying to you now, knowing that that's how he admitted to killing his wife, choking her, and he had his hands on your neck?
Yeah. Yeah.
The relationship lasted several weeks until Watts began seeing another woman, co-worker Nicole Kessinger. That's Watts in the mirror taking a sexy photo of Nicole.
Let's walk out this way.
The next time Amanda saw Watts, he was in the headlines for killing his wife and kids. She still can't believe she dated him.
It made me feel betrayed. It made me feel nasty. It made me feel dirty.
He had a wife at home, pregnant, two daughters at home.
I know how that hurts. I wouldn't do that to her.
This just-released video shows how cold-blooded Watts was. He's at a convenience store casually buying a breakfast sandwich just hours after stuffing his children in oil tanks and burying his wife in a shallow grave. I watched it with Amanda. What do you think about his demeanor here?
Amanda McMahon never expected her name to surface in the same sentence as Chris Watts. Not in documentaries, not in interrogation files, and certainly not in whispers that circled the internet like blown ash. But 7 years before the murders, long before Sean and/or Nicole Kessinger entered his orbit, Amanda had already seen the face behind the smile and survived it. Back then, Chris wasn't a household name. He was just a quiet mechanic who swiped right on a Tinder night when Amanda was bored, lonely, and half listening to the hum of her roommate's TV. His profile looked harmless, painfully harmless. A man who blended into the background so well that even the algorithm nearly forgot to show him to her. They met at a cheap motel off a Colorado highway. Amanda remembered the lamp flickering as if it sensed something she didn't. Chris didn't talk much. He just watched her the way a storm watches a tree line, waiting for the moment something gives. She didn't expect the switch. She didn't expect the hands. She didn't expect the way his voice changed, hollow, emptied of whatever humanity he arrived with. Amanda told investigators years later that he tried to strangle her, pinning her down with a calmness she still struggles to explain. She fought hard. She clawed her way out of the moment he became something she still cannot name. When she escaped the room, she didn't look back. And when the Watts case broke open in 2018, she recognized his face instantly. The same calm, the same void. She told police, "That man was going to kill me. I know it." If the story pulled you in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, where every shadow has a story.
Okay, Amanda. Detective Kenny said, my name is Dave Ballman. I'm a detective for Frederick Police Department, and I'm the lead investigator on the Watts case.
Okay.
Somewhere along the line, you made some statements about how you know Chris.
Yeah, I met on Tinder at the beginning of like March-ish.
Okay.
And it was just like it was like Fast and Furious. I have a whole bunch of like articles written about me, and I think it's kind of like crossing over with the other girl, but like people have been like taking random pictures of me just walking down the street, and I just, I have no idea what to say. I mean, we just met once, and
Okay, and this was March of
this year.
this year, 2018, and you met on Tinder?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've never used Tinder. Is there like a username, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's just like a profile you create. I've gotten back on there because you can deactivate it and reactivate it. It can either go off like your Facebook or Gmail, or you can just make a whole new like, account or something like that. And so I went back and checked, and his profile wasn't there, so he must have deleted it on him. And
Okay, and what was his profile name?
I don't remember. It just said Chris.
Do you have like a picture? It said Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
And
Chris?
the pictures I remember he posted were him. It was like, I guess like a catfish thing, but he used another guy's like picture. It looked similar, and it was definitely not the guy in the picture when I met him. I said it was just like a one-time thing, like on I'm sorry, I'm really nervous.
It's okay. No, just relax.
Like I have nothing to hide, nothing at all. I mean, it's a little bit overwhelming, but, and it's humiliating on, like, my end. It makes me feel, come off as a whore. But,
So just walk me through from the one time that you said you met Chris at Tinder. Just walk me through that day, evening, whatever it was, that time period.
I don't know, we just met, I don't know, it's like so blurry. And we just like met at the parking lot at Chick-fil-A. I don't know, it sounds funny. And I got something to drink, and then we just went back to my house, and
You both went back to your house?
Mhm.
Okay, so
followed me.
which Chick-fil-A was that?
One on Center Place.
On Center Place?
Uh-huh.
So he drove here?
Yeah. And like it's around like the February, March time period. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I've met up, but I'm not trying to sound like a whore or not, but through a nasty divorce, and my kids are in Vermont, and so I just kind of went wild, and it's
whatever.
not safe, and
I'm not gonna judge you for that. That's not the purpose of this meeting, so don't worry about that. Okay, I don't care. So talk to me just a little bit about where you met up. You said at the Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
Did you both drive there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was he driving?
He was driving a truck.
Okay, what did that truck look like?
I think it was like navy or something.
Navy?
Yeah, like blue, black, something like that.
Okay. Do you know what kind of truck?
Yeah.
Is it just a pickup? Anything specific about it or unique about it?
Mm-hmm. That's what I remember. And then I remember just kind of, I don't know, I got something to drink, and then we just like, it was like so humiliating for me, because the meetup was just about sex. So we kind of just like went and, met him somewhere, and it wasn't like I know it's kind of funny now, but it was like a killer. And, no radars went off or anything, and so, it's just like scary, like, I had this guy in my home, and, we, had sex, and he left.
Was that in the truck?
That was in my house.
So you both pull up at the Chick-fil-A, and he pulls up in the navy blue truck, and you pull up in your car. What happened? Just walk me through that with a little bit of detail.
Amanda McMahon didn't sleep the night the Watts murders hit national news. She sat on the edge of her bed, wrapped in a blanket she couldn't feel. her eyes dry but burning as Chris's face flashed across every station, every timeline, every breaking news banner. She kept whispering the same sentence to herself. I knew he'd do it to someone someday. I just didn't think he'd do it to them. For years she had carried her encounter like a strange, unspeakable bruise. Something so violent yet so unbelievable that even she questioned it. The police report she filed went nowhere. The officers who interviewed her back then wrote it up and tucked it behind better leads, bigger emergencies, louder victims. Chris Watts was quiet, polite, well-spoken. Amanda was emotional, shaken, inconsistent, the way real trauma makes you. So when detectives contacted her after his arrest, she felt that old bruise throb back to life. They didn't ask how she was. They didn't ask if she'd healed. They asked if she remembered what Chris said when he tried to strangle her. And she did. She remembered him whispering with alarming calm, "You don't know me." Not really. She hadn't thought much of it then. She assumed it was just something men say when they're spiraling. But now, knowing what he did to Sean and Bella and Celeste, the words carried a different weight. A warning she didn't understand at the time. Amanda gave her full statement, a detailed, shaking recount. But what stunned her most was when one detective admitted something she still can't forget. If we had taken your report seriously back then, maybe this wouldn't have happened. The guilt wasn't hers to carry, but she carried it anyway. If this chapter kept you hooked, don't forget to like and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, where every truth demands a witness. The night he tried to kill me. Amanda had replayed that night hundreds of times, but after Chris Watts became a household name, a symbol of hidden evil, every replay sharpened, like her memory was finally allowed to speak. She remembered how ordinary the beginning was. A Tinder match, a casual conversation, a simple meet-up at his truck. Chris had been friendly, too friendly. His smile was wide but empty, like a mask stretched too tight. She felt an instinctive tug in her chest that something was off, but she ignored it. Loneliness can mute better judgment. When she got into the passenger seat, Chris locked the doors. That was the first red flag. The second was when he drove somewhere quiet, not the public place they'd agreed on. When she questioned him, he brushed it off with a soft chuckle, the kind that made her stomach knot. And then his hands closed around her throat. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't chaotic. It was practiced. His grip tightened slowly, like he was easing into a memory he knew well. Amanda clawed at his wrists, kicked at the dashboard, her lungs burning hot. But it was the look on his face that haunted her most. Not rage, not thrill. Detachment, almost peaceful, as though he'd slipped out of himself and into something colder. "Why are you doing this?" she gasped. Chris tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he'd nearly solved. Then he said something that would echo inside her for years. "I want to feel what it's like." That was when she realized. He wasn't attacking her because of who she was. He was practicing for something else, something bigger, something catastrophic. Her survival wasn't his mercy. It was his mistake. If this chapter left your pulse high, don't forget to like and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, the place where every hidden truth comes up for air. His face wasn't new. I'd seen it before. For months after the attack, Amanda tried to convince herself she had misread everything. Maybe he panicked. Maybe she startled him. Maybe the darkness in his eyes that night was just stress, or alcohol, or something human, not evil. She wanted to believe that. But then August 2018 shattered that illusion. Amanda was in her living room when Chris Watts' mugshot flashed across the screen. The anchor's voice was calm, collected, completely unprepared for the eruption this case was about to create. A Colorado man is accused of murdering his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters.
Has considered the arguments made by the attorneys. The court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family as well as the Watts family that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood, and I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that the statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
Amanda's heartbeat collapsed into a cold ache. She leaned closer to the TV. No, it couldn't be him. But it was. The same face, the same dead calm, the same man who had once squeezed the air out of her throat like he was testing something. Her breath shook. Her fingertips went numb. Her mind replayed one sentence, the one he whispered while crushing her windpipe. I want to feel what it's like. She realized then that she was the unfinished version of a horror he later perfected. The guilt hit her harder than the fear. If she had gone to the police, if she had filed a report, if she had trusted her instincts instead of dismissing them, would Shanann still be alive? Would Bella and Cece be laughing somewhere right now, living the childhood they deserved? The weight of those questions sank its teeth into her and never let go. Amanda wasn't responsible, the monster was, but she had brushed shoulders with him long before the world knew his name. And he had walked away free. I should have told someone, anyone. In the days after the murders, Amanda avoided mirrors. Every time she caught her reflection, she didn't see herself. She saw the version of her that almost became a headline, too. Her phone buzzed nonstop with news alerts, photos of Shanann, smiling pictures of Bella and Cece, drone footage of the oil site, and every time, Chris's face stared back with the same eerie neutrality he wore the night he attacked her. The world was calling him a monster. Amanda whispered to herself, I already knew. Yet the shame followed her everywhere. Why didn't she report him? Why didn't she press charges? Why did she let him charm her into silence?
So I remember he walked over to my car. I drive a Honda CRV. And we're like, oh, you want to go in or anything? And so I went inside. He stayed out there and I got something to drink and then we just sat down and talked for a little bit. I remember talking to him about the Anadarko where he worked because my ex-husband tried to get on with them, but he had a history of like domestic violence and everything, so they wouldn't hire him. And so I remember that conversation and he was like, oh, that's funny. So I just remember that. And then he said that he was like split from his, he called him baby mama, and she wouldn't let him see his kids. And I remember kind of clicking with him about that because my boys are in Vermont with my ex-husband and it's been a nasty battle. And so, so that was kind of like the conversation, and then we agreed to go back to my place, and we did it, and he left, and that was the end of the occasion.
Okay. Excuse me. So, the Tinder thing, I got a couple questions about how that works. So, is that just like an app where you can chat?
Yeah, you swipe left or right, and then if you match, then you can talk. If not, you move on.
So did you actually talk on the phone with him before you met? Like, hey, meet me at the Chick-fil-A? How does that work?
So we talked back and forth, and then I had a different number through like a Text Now app, just because it was really like I'm really like funny about who has my like number. Like I'm all about like my privacy and stuff. So I was talking to him through like a Text Now app. I no longer have my phone. I do have a new one, but I'm kind of like, I don't have Tinder on this one. But yeah, I mean, it's just a regular dating app like Plenty of Fish or like Cupid or something.
Okay. So then how did you arrange the meeting at Chick-fil-A?
Through Tinder.
I mean, how did you actually, is it all texting, or is it all, did you say meet me at Chick-fil-A at Ben's on Center Place, or?
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
And how did he know to find you?
Because he had that Text Now number. It's a number that I use to like talk to people, like my clients or something like that, because I do hair. Mm-hmm. And it said I don't like people having like my, actual phone number. So it was a text now app. I said this was a long time ago. I couldn't even, tell you what number he had. Like I don't have anything. Like.
So he called you on this text now phone number?
Mm-hmm.
So
he didn't call me. It was all through text and stuff.
It was all through text, but you don't remember the number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. About what time do you think that was?
Like, what do you mean? What time it was?
Like time of day, night?
Let's see. So, like the day or two before, we just talk like, hey, what's up? And then it was just more of like a spur of the moment thing. I don't know.
But I mean, what time
of day did we
Yeah, was it in the evening when you were at the Chick-fil-A?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the evening. About what time do you think though?
Like 7:45-ish. It was after I got off of work, and I went straight there. I got off of work at 7, so.
So a long time it took you to drive there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're messaging while you're at work about where to meet and all?
While I was at work, yeah, I decided to meet there and just meet and do it, I mean, it's pretty hard for me to talk about because I had to explain to my parents, I said when he was at my door, I mean, it was just like, I mean, like I said, like after, my boys left from the divorce and stuff like that, I just went like batshit crazy and just, hooked up with,
Yeah, I get it.
It's just, I wish I could remember more details, but like seriously, like it's so shameful for me to say, up until like, a couple of weeks ago, I would say like, I just was able to calm down and, I also had like a brain injury last year, traumatic brain injury, and I think that kind of contributes to my memory and stuff like that. But
how did that occur, if you don't mind me asking?
It was in January of last year, and I fell and hit my head on ice, and it was hard. And I just remember waking up. I was in that basement apartment
Back then, she told her friends it was a weird night, a confusing situation, scare that probably wasn't meant to be one. But the truth was simpler. She didn't want to believe he had tried to kill her. It's easier to lie to yourself when the alternative feels impossible. But after the Watts case exploded, nothing was impossible anymore, only horrifyingly real. One evening, Amanda finally broke down and called a domestic violence hotline. Her voice shook. She couldn't get the words out. The counselor simply said gently, "You survived something he didn't want you to survive. That's not your fault." The sentence cracked something open inside her. For the first time, she cried. Not because she feared Chris Watts, but because she feared what he became after her. A man no one stopped. Amanda still lived with the haunting truth. She was the warning sign the world never saw. And sometimes the survivors suffer longer than the dead because they must live with the almost. If the story matters to you, don't forget to like and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, where every hidden voice finally gets heard. The detective looked at me like I held the missing piece. Amanda didn't plan to talk to law enforcement. For months, she'd kept her silence sealed like a wound she didn't dare reopen. But detectives eventually found her. Not in some dramatic midnight knock, but in a calm, unassuming phone call. "Ma'am, we believe you had contact with Chris Watts before the murders. We'd like to ask a few questions." Her breath nodded. In that moment, she understood. Her past wasn't finished with her, it was coming to collect. She met with investigators in a small interview room. The walls hummed with fluorescent lights, the kind that make everything feel both too real and not real at all. The detective slid a photo across the table. Chris's face. That same disconnected expression. Amanda felt the room tilt. "We've reviewed statements from other women," he said quietly. "But your story, it's different. Different, because she survived." Amanda recounted the night Chris choked her. The grip, the blank stare, the moment she thought she'd disappear. She confessed the denial she wrapped around herself, like a blanket too thin to keep the truth out. The detective listened without interruption, but his eyes said everything. She was the red flag no one caught in time. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "Amanda, your experience matters. What you lived through helps us understand him." Her hands trembled beneath the table. For the first time, her fear didn't feel private. It felt documented, real, undeniable. Walking out of that station, Amanda felt lighter and heavier at the same time, like a storm cloud drifting behind her, but still close enough to cast a shadow. By sharing her truth, she didn't erase the past. She only stopped letting it erase her. "He wanted me silent, but I'm the one still speaking." Amanda used to think healing meant forgetting. But the more distance she put between herself and Chris, the louder certain memories became. Small fragments she once ignored now returned with sharper edges. It wasn't just the choking. It was the way he studied her, as though observing a puzzle he planned to take apart. The way he smiled without warmth. The way conversations drifted into moments of eerie stillness, where he seemed to vanish behind his own eyes. Back then, she brushed these things off. Now she understood. "He rehearsed," she whispered to a friend one night. "That's what haunts me. I think he practiced being two different people." As news reports continued to analyze the Watts case, Amanda felt the world circling around a horror she'd brushed against long before it became a headline. Strangers online argued about motives, timelines, affairs, unaware that somewhere out there was a woman who had already felt the monster beneath the mask. One evening, she received a message from another woman who had once matched with Chris online. "He scared me too," the woman wrote. "I didn't know why until now." Amanda stared at the message for a long time, because suddenly, she wasn't alone. And suddenly, her fear wasn't just a memory. It was a warning that should have echoed sooner. She realized something difficult, something heavy. Chris Watts didn't snap. He escalated. And she had brushed against one of the early steps. That knowledge didn't give her peace, but it gave her clarity. And with clarity came purpose. "People need to know," she told herself. "Because monsters don't always arrive with fangs. Sometimes they come with a gym smile and a calm voice." The story that should have ended with me. Amanda didn't follow the trial every day. Some mornings she woke up with enough strength to read another headline. Other days she avoided the news altogether, afraid that a single detail would drag her back into the darkness she fought so hard to outrun. But the sentencing hearing, that was the day she forced herself to watch. When she heard the prosecutor say the words, "He strangled Shanann," and then the children, her knees went weak, not because she needed confirmation of his violence, but because the method was the same pressure, the same silence, the same cold focus. Amanda's voice shook as she whispered into the empty room. "That could have been me. It should have ended with me." Asterisk, that thought lived with her, not as guilt, but as a chilling truth she couldn't ignore. In the months that followed, she found herself replaying every conversation she ever had with Chris. Moments where she missed signs, moments where she second-guessed herself, moments where she minimized her fear. But survival has a strange way of rewriting the story. The more she spoke openly, to friends, to therapists, to other women who reached out, the more she realized she hadn't been dramatic, or overreacting, or confused. She had been lucky to escape. Lucky to recognize the mask before it sealed her fate. Lucky to live long enough to speak when others could not. And so she decided her voice would not be quiet. Not now. Not ever. "When you survive someone like Chris Watts," she said, "you owe the truth to the people who didn't." She paused, breathed in, and added, "And I'll keep talking until someone listens." For more deep-dive true crime stories, survivor accounts, and hidden chapters the world missed, Make sure you like and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime. Your support brings these unseen truths into the light.
I did pick up my daughter from school, and my mom kind of thought that was weird, and she came to I don't know how I made it back into the house, but she came in, and next thing I know, like, I woke up in ICU. So, I mean, I was there for like 5 days and recovered pretty well. It was a subdermal hematoma, and so.
Okay, so after the Chick-fil-A, take me from there.
He just followed me to my place. And I lived at the time clear on 18th Avenue.
Remember the address?
1801 and a half 18th Avenue.
Okay, I'm listening.
And then we got out, kind of. I smoked a cigarette, and I went inside, and it was really, like, fast. It was really aggressive, and then he left.
Okay, and what do you mean by fast and aggressive?
He was very, like, rough. That's all I'm gonna say. And, like, I don't know, like, in all honesty, like, it's just, I'm not, like, you know, I just, like, remember seeing that face, and, you know, the tattoos, and the Anadarko job, and stuff like that, and the name. But other than that, like, you know, like I said, like, before, like, I couldn't pick out, like, 90% of the guys that I've been with, you know, and, like, I know it sounds awful, but, you know, like, you know, it just seems unreal that, you know, I would know somebody that did that. Like, you know, I keep having these doubts, so I just, you know, I'm just not 100% sure. I mean, it's just like that, all the details, you know, match, like, you know, it's just.
So what point did he tell you his name?
In the app.
In the app? He told you his name was Chris Watts in the app?
Well, not Watts. I mean, you know, you just put your first name.
Okay, so he never told you his name was Watts? So how do you know it's him?
I just recognize the face and everything.
Okay. Tell me about his tattoos.
I remember they were on his back and his arms, but other than that, I don't remember. I don't remember much. I don't know, he had tattoos on his arms and on his back. But other than that, I said, I'm not a strong witness or anything like that. It's just an interaction I have with him.
Do you remember seeing the tattoos on his legs?
Yeah.
So you said, describe what you mean by aggressive, when he was aggressive with you.
Mm-hmm. I really don't want to say much. I really don't.
Well, it's a pretty important case, so you're now in the middle of it.
What's that?
You're now in the middle of it, at least this part of it. So you said that he was being aggressive, so you need to tell me what that's about.
I don't know, I was told to not really, like, say much without a lawyer. I just don't want to incriminate myself anyway.
I can tell you that I'm not looking at you for any criminal means you have as a witness. Okay, so don't worry about that.
I don't know, I just remember kind of, it was like, I don't know, it's just like, it's hard to explain. It was like a like I said, it's humiliating for me to talk about. Like it really is. Like, you know, I mean, he was rough, as in, you know, it's just he tried to, you know, like stick it in my butt. So it was weird. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, but what else that was aggressive, or how did you
like
feel?
pulling my hair and putting his arms around my neck. It was like a rape fantasy thing. That's how I, you know, like describe it. It's really like, you know, I mean, I just remember thinking like, what the fuck when he left? Like, I actually had to like push him off me at one point.
Okay. I know that's rough, I'm sorry, but I just have to ask that. Back up. Do you have your ID with you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see that real quick, please? What's your current address now? Is it on your DL there?
No, this is the old one. I haven't gotten it.
Oh, yeah, ID card. So what's your current address now, Amanda?
2106 and a half 8th Avenue.
So you were saying that people are taking pictures of you now and following you around, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me about that a little bit.
Pictures here that I screenshot and people screenshot and send them to me.
Okay. What is this, Facebook?
Yeah, it's an article
Screenshot
on
from it.
Facebook, and then on the other ones, they're using I deactivated my Facebook and everything just because of all the messages and stuff I've been getting, but yeah, that's
So you don't have any of that anymore?
the messages. Yeah.
What are the content of the messages, I guess?
Let me pull some up. Okay. So somehow my messenger is still active, even though I deleted my Facebook. I don't know how that works, but like I didn't accept them. But this one's like. So the content of them is like that. How this started is my big mouth. I joined a group. It was like this Kimberly Kessler, this thing in Florida, this hairdresser that went missing.